Hello, everybody. My name is Gary Gomes. I'm here to talk to you about astrology, Vedic astrology in particular. And we're going to look over the forecast for the next couple of weeks, make some world predictions, and also talk about uh, what's happening in the sky for you individually. I'm sure going to try to make these a little bit more frequent. This, as most of you know, watch Greater New Bedford Cable. This is my regular show. I'm going to try to put up more shorter posts as big events come up, but and also going to be hosting more guests. I've been working with Lolita um, Donatello Robeck on YouTube, and we had a very successful premiere, and we hope to continue collaborating together to educate the audience about Vedic astrology, and also to give you useful information which can help you improve your lives. Excuse me. It's been a long day, and I have an itchy nose. So, so essentially, that being said, uh, we're going to just give you some background on myself, although a lot of you have heard it. I'm the former president of the Council of Vedic Astrology. Um, I left actually because I was going to a doctoral program in education. And I've also spoken at many conferences. I've spoken internationally on YouTube with Sunil John and others. And I've also written on astrology in the Mountain Astrologer. I am working on a book. It's been years in the making. And for some reason or other, I still find reasons not to complete it. I'm also a faculty member, but I will complete it, and I will complete more. And I'm a faculty member at Kepler College and at the American College of Vedic Astrology, and I also have a doctoral degree in education, a master's in business administration, and an MBA in sociology, although I was a journalism major for a while, but left journalism because of some disturbing trends I saw happening, which have become sadly true. The other thing is, I do teach, I do readings. So if you're interested in a reading, you can contact me. The best way to contact me is through my cell phone at 508-525-0001. Or you can just give me a call on that number. I'm happy to talk with you. I do teach students Vedic astrology. I teach a variety of other subjects like Reiki and tarot, and I can teach palmistry. And I'm a multi-talented kind of a guy. So that having, in addition to being the most handsome man in Vedic astrology and the most modest. So those things having been said, let's get on with the show. All right. So, and again, this is with all the greatest respect to the rishis and the seer and the others who came before us, the acharyas who came before us and who provided this wisdom. I joke around, but I do take the tradition very seriously. So let's look at the chart for right now. All right, so this is, I'm going to fix this. It says now Los Angeles. Um, hmm. We're going to do a now. And this will be now New Bedford, because that's where I'm broadcasting from. So the reason I'm choosing New Bedford as opposed to, let's say, a better location, or a better known, not a better location, but a better known location, is basically because as an astrologer, I have to look at the world through my perspective. There are more traditional places like Ujjain in India and London East Greenwich time, but basically this is the science of astrology is rather. I think personally, it's going to tell you the same thing no matter which location you pick. And to me, that's the miracle and the wonder of astrology is that you can look at it from two different perspectives and get the same information. So I'll see a technique I don't necessarily find any agreement with, but they'll reach the same conclusion I will. And you'll say, well, that must be some kind of a flaw in astrology if you can reach the conclusion from two different points. And it's not really a flaw. Essentially, you don't have to follow the same path to reach the same destination. So if I'm going to a location like New York City, I can go there by train, sometimes by boat, by plane, by car. There's no. It doesn't mean that a plane is more scientific than a car is. So all right. So essentially, the final proof is in the predictions and what the predictions show you. Now, it's actually good that I did this broadcast right now because I have the Sun and Venus in the 7th house. And earlier I was working with somebody, and we had K2 in the 1st house and Mercury and Rahu in the 7th house, which is okay. Actually for a broadcast medium, that's okay. But for a happier or a better predictive stance, the Sun-Venus combination in the 7th house is actually better. So essentially, the Sun just changed signs, as a matter of fact. So this is 10 o'clock at night where I am. This is one of the latest times I've actually done this broadcast. There's a variety of reasons for this, none of which really matter all that much. It's just that I've been busy otherwise during the day. And so I had to do it late at night in order to make my deadline. And if we look at this chart, we see the first lord is Jupiter. So the Vedic chart is the upper left-hand side. The South Indian Vedic chart is always Pisces in the upper left-hand side, Aries in the next house, Taurus in the next house, then Gemini, then Cancer down to the next, is the next box below Gemini, then Leo, then Virgo, then Libra down here, and sort of the lower right-hand corner, or next to the lower right-hand corner, and Scorpio right next to that, and Sagittarius or Danus right next to that, and Capricorn, and Aquarius. So I feel it's useful to refresh people's memories about these locations every once in a while, just to keep them on their toes and to advise them of what's going on. The chart is kind of interesting. This chart is kind of interesting because we have a Saturn-Mars opposition. That's the first thing that drew my attention to it. And usually when you have a Saturn-Mars opposition, Mars is very low degree right now. Saturn's about a little bit past the middle of the sign, and it's moving backwards. So that's called a retrograde. So Saturn will be moving backwards for a few months. And basically when Saturn moves backwards for a few months, it essentially, there are some things that are actually beneficial about it. That is, it tends to reduce debts, or you'll get deferments of payments. So essentially, if you owe somebody money, Saturn will delay or reduce the possibility they'll come after you with big guns and with writs. The problem with that, so it gives you a little bit more time, But it's not really good to add increased debt when Saturn's retrograde. It's not a good idea to take on additional responsibilities because there'll be much more work than they first of all seem to be. And also there's a tendency to overwork when Saturn is retrograde. The Saturn-Mars opposition is a little bit damaging because Mars likes to move forward and likes to punch ahead, right? And Saturn likes to slow things down. Just take it easy. Don't hurry. Do things very thoroughly. And this is a term that I've coined myself. I haven't heard other astrologers coin it, but I'm not claiming it's a unique invention. It's what I call a perfectionist combination. And when I say perfectionist, I mean somebody who can't move until everything is perfect, just right. So it's kind of what I would call a paralyzing combination. It's very good for getting construction work done or for building projects, those kinds of things. Mars is weak in this sign. Cancer is its least favorable position. But if we go over to the Navamsha chart, it gains a little bit of strength. If you look at the moon is in the same sign as Mars, that's called a cancellation of debilitation. And usually when you have something like that happen, and Mars is also in, let's see now, is in Pushami, which is a Saturn-ruled nakshatra. So that, and Saturn's aspecting it, so that'll cancel the debilitation somewhat. But a debilitated planet will always be a little bit rough. And what Mars in Cancer does is, although it makes people very spiritual, it makes people very humble, it'll also make them very quick to anger. It's kind of a paradoxical situation, but it's what I've seen happening again and again. So most people who are normally laid back, they won't let things irritate them. Mars is in, I like to call Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces are water signs. So essentially, Cancer is sort of like just right. It's the Goldilocks zone for planets. Scorpio is boiling hot or seething. And our friend Pisces is sort of cool. It's cool water. So basically, and it's the cool water of detachment, but Cancer, this is home. This is home life. So everybody's home life is going to be a little bit hot over the next couple of months. It doesn't necessarily mean you'll be angry perpetually, but I think you'll see people more prone to fits of anger or outbursts or angry outbursts. The moon being in Cancer is in a Shlesha nakshatra should calm things down a little bit. It'll also make us a little bit wiser or more strategic in our thinking. Shlesha is not a bad nakshatra. The nakshatras. So there's this. I just had a conversation with Lisa, and we were talking about nakshatra qualities, and certain nakshatras tend to get a bad rap. Certain signs tend to get a bad rap, as a matter of fact, in Western astrology. So Scorpio often gets a bad rap because it's considered to be sneaky or jealous or angry. And certain other signs like Taurus is considered to be stubborn. Libra is considered to be indecisive. Aries is considered to be too aggressive, etc., etc. The same is true for nakshatras. Nakshatras tend to have these qualities assigned to them. So Shlesha is supposed to be, it's a serpent nakshatra, so it's supposed to be sneaky and devious. But people with a Shlesha nakshatras tend to be good strategists. They tend to figure out long-term goals. They tend to take advantage of situations as they arise, and there can be some ethical complications connected with that, but that's basically um, it's an opportunistic nakshatra, but also people who don't seize opportunities don't get ahead or don't advance. So it's not. So it would be counter to their to 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 an individual's nature if they have a Shlesha nakshatra not to try to seize an opportunity. Um, does it mean they always succeed? No, not really, but they always try. And through sheer persistence and into willpower, they often do succeed. But basically, Mars is in a relatively nice nakshatra. Moon is cooling it down a little bit because the moon's in its own sign, and Saturn is holding Mars back so it doesn't really blow its top and get very angry at everybody. So that's one of the reasons we saw what happened in the Israeli elections, where there was a coalition to take down a prime minister who was perceived as being dangerously violent. Um, I'm not saying he was, I'm just talking about the perception. And I heard the analysis on one of the news channels saying the coalition is kind of flimsy because it's only all that it's based on is going to get the current prime minister out. There are like wildly divergent viewpoints in that coalition. But without getting into other countries' politics, I'm not an expert on my own politics. I'm not going to be an expert on Israel's politics, and I don't pretend to be. But I just thought it was interesting that you have this kind of coming together for what they perceive to be their interests, and essentially the coalition is a very fragmented coalition. It's very it's very diverse. And when I say diverse, I don't mean like ethnically diverse or anything like that. I mean politically diverse. Different, often contradictory aims. But getting back to the chart, so we have Saturn in the second house, aspected by Mars, so that'll make people a little bit harsh in their speech, a little bit tough but they'll be willing to communicate, and especially they'll be willing to teach because Jupiter's in Aquarius, and they'll talk about secrets. So they'll talk about things coming out over the past year that were not spoken about honestly. So anyone who has spoken untruthfully over the past year, over the next 3 months, and again around December, they'll have a lot of problems. They'll have a great many problems because that Jupiter in the sign is sort of a judgment. It's in a space in the sky which is said to have 1,000 eyes, and it also has 100 doctors. It's sort of like knows all, sees all, kind of a placement for Jupiter, and so you'll see a lot of rectification of untruths over the next few months. The other thing is, with this chart, it'll be public. It won't be something that's kept behind the scenes. The fifth house lord is Mars. Mars is placed in the eighth house. So this will be a little bit tough on luck, especially political luck for almost anybody. So anybody was counting on help. It will also limit entertainment activities to what I would call underground or hidden entertainment activities, because there's still not a lot of we're still in the process, although to me, it feels much more normal over the past month, since a lot of the mask mandates were lifted than it has over the past year. We're still in this sort of like um, guarded, cautious perspective with regards to COVID. So nobody's really declaring victory yet. They've kind of declared victory because a lot of society in the United States is opening up, but other countries around the world are still shut down or closed down, or their economies are still slow. And this will give problems politically because of things like inflation, anger about gas prices, eighth house matter is stuff that's under the ground. So that's things like gasoline. And we all know that we're seeing inflation happening in the United States. Again, a lot of people are misdiagnosing it because they say it's the government spending. It's really not the government spending. It's the fact that nobody's been producing anything over the past year or so. And so essential occupations didn't extend to things like, let's say processing wood products. So there's a shortage of wood. Processing electronics. So there's a shortage of chips. These aren't considered to be essential occupations like nursing or supermarkets or food servers are. They weren't. So a lot of those businesses stopped producing. So you do have too much money chasing after too few goods, which is the definition of inflation. But it isn't because the government's printing money, although if that happens long enough, that can lead to inflation. But if there's low demand or there's a low availability of necessary products, then you'll have inflation guaranteed, and that's what we're seeing happening. The Mercury Rahu conjunction, also whether or not you agree with the politics or not, closing things down like the pipeline, essentially, banning fracking. Although I understand the environmental concern over it, essentially, if you do that when the economy hasn't been producing, it doesn't make it's maybe good environmental policy, but it's bad economic policy. So it'll have deleterious effects on the economy. So, and I can hear some people saying, well, later on it'll improve, and this will only be temporary. But inflationary cycles are tough to break. I've lived through a couple. They're really tough to break. So this is something that I hope they get the economy back rolling again really, really quickly. And I think they will. But we'll be going through kind of an inflationary cycle until through most of 2022. Sun and Venus are in the seventh house. So that's good for romance. It's good for relationship life. A lot of people are going to look awfully attractive because of this combination. Some of my colleagues have expressed the feeling that a lot of people are going to be really, there's going to be a lot of pent up demand for dating when everybody feels secure. And I think that's probably true. The idea is going to become like the Roaring '20s. I think is probably not true, but that's my own bias. The Sun and Venus conjunction, though, in Gemini, a lot of Geminis are going to benefit greatly from this because this combination gives great beauty or great attractiveness to people, and relationship partners may look, especially for Geminis, will be incredibly good looking. Mars and Moon are in the eighth house. So again, that's that eruptive temper you should watch out for with relationship partners. Maybe months of being cooped up in a pandemic or not hanging out with different people will do that to you. But you'll start to see a lot of tension over the summertime. And as I said before, I think we're already starting to see it. We saw it this past few days. There was a really nasty, violent incident that happened. I only caught like a little bit of details of it. Um, uh, in, in which a guy in a car ran over a protester, and they attacked, and the guy in the car was attacked by a group. It was really kind of nasty. I can't remember where it was. And I think those kinds of things are going to be. It's going to be a hot summer, folks. I hate to tell you that, but it's true. The other thing is, over here, the ninth house Lord is the sun. Lord of the ninth house is in the seventh house, so it should be a relatively lucky period after June 22nd for starting relationships or entering relationships. With this Mercury Rahu conjunction over here, you'll be getting a lot of mixed signals from people that you're interested in, or the people who you think are interested in you. Because the Mercury is retrograde, it hurts communications very badly, and a lot of people will be at odds with each other. Virgo is the 10th house. So relationship life will still be confused until around June 23rd at least. But still even a little bit confused until the end of the month. It doesn't mean you should stop investigating people or stop seeing people. It just means the status of the relationship is going to be a little bit ambiguous. The other thing, and I've heard that from a few clients already, the 10th house Lord is in the 6th house, so work will be a little bit of a challenge. A lot of people won't like what they're being asked to do for work, but they'll be asked to change perspective, change what they're doing, and it'll be a little bit of a struggle at first. 11th house Lord is Venus. Lord of the 11th house is in the 7th house. So gain a relationship partner from friends, okay? Friends will be considered as possible relationship partners. Venus is in the 7th house. It's really well placed. And it'll give a lot of dating possibilities to people, but also a lot of new friendships, especially artistic friendships. And the 12th house has Ketu in it, which is particularly good for spirituality or for spiritual pursuits like meditation and visualization, those kinds of things. So if we look at this major planetary period, or we look at this chart in comparison with the world, if we're looking at, let's say, Jupiter, this is a negotiative planet right here, but there will be a lot of, I would say, a lot of surface politeness, but duplicity in international politics. So let's see where that would be happening. Okay. Let me see. Let's go to the time. Oh, from the old astro mapping. And I'm going to stop sharing so I can make sure this goes back on again. Hi. All right, so I just like to do that every once in a while just to make sure that we're okay. All right, we're still recording. So, duplicity in government. Let's see where we're seeing it. Venus is close to Pennsylvania. So, duplicity in government, usually around, we're talking about Arizona, California, a little bit in Utah, a little bit in um, a little bit in Utah, a little bit in through North and South, through North and South Dakota, and through Wisconsin. Venus relations will be good overall in throughout the eastern seaboard, but the problem we run into with this combination is there'll be a lot of competition, and also a lot of infighting, because there's a mutual exchange. I had mentioned this is a mutual exchange between um, Venus and Mercury right now. And while that's good for strengthening relationship life or for increasing relationship possibilities, it's very difficult for political life. So essentially, you'll see a lot of people just trying to subvert the political process, virtually everywhere. Some potential for tropical storms over here off of Puerto Rico, and also some potential for storms and for violence down through uh, Venezuela, Chile, Colombia, um, and Bolivia, and also um, Peru. Jupiter runs through, Jupiter and the moon are running close to Rio de Janeiro. The moon isn't particularly good because it's with Mars, but it's better than having Mars there alone. So, although there will be some violence and some increased activity, there will be the start of some healing in Brazil, and at least some more effective use of vaccines. There's nothing really happening over here in Greenland. The Azores may be a little bit affected by its government, and Iceland has a lot of lines running through it. Wow. So, and I don't want to focus, but Iceland there's a bunch of activity happening in Iceland. I hope we don't have another volcano or earthquake. And also through Denmark, right here. It's Denmark right here. Ireland and England have a Venus line running through them. So again, we're going to see a lot of political intrigue in those two countries. But I don't think violence. And Mars, you're going to definitely see some violence in Italy, Germany, and Norway. Saturn is passing right through Greece, and through Turkey. So you will see, and also through Turkey. So you'll see, I'm sorry, you're seeing a moon line through Turkey. My apologies. So that could mean a change in government. That can also mean some anxiety because of some kind of natural weather change. So people in Turkey should be aware of the possibility. It does look like Istanbul has some possibility of having some fall weather. I don't necessarily think it's going to be earthquakes, but I wouldn't rule it out entirely. And I think overall, but it looks more like, to me, it looks more like rains and some violence in the streets. And we have, who's this running through here? Yeah, that's Rahu passing over us. Yeah, so there's going to be some panic or some local scandal connected with government in Turkey, especially around Istanbul. Again, I wouldn't rule out the possibility of some kind of natural catastrophe occurring, but it seems remote to me. We have a Jupiter line running through Syria and eastern Turkey, and through Saudi Arabia, and down through Africa, uh, down through what was for Mozambique, Angola, looks like to me. And so those are actually good signs for that. They'll gain some medical attention down there. Rahu's passing right through Saudi Arabia. That's not a good sign. Mercury's passing right through Saudi Arabia. That's not a good sign. It tends to show a lot of distrust of the government. And Venus is running through, so there'll be political intrigue in India, although it'll be relatively more aimed at price. There is a Mars line running right next to India and Southeast Asia and China. So there's a potential for some conflict over there and also in Middle Russia. And we have a moon line running through China. So there's some possibility of, I want to say disease, but civil unrest in China going through around Hong Kong, or I'm sorry, through Taiwan, my apologies, and going through Indonesia. So that part of the world will have some real problems with bad weather, with economics, and I'll run all through Australia. Rahu is running through Japan. That'll cause some panic in Japan, probably economic, and Mercury and Sun are a little bit problematic in Japan. So there'll be some media scandals in Japan. I'm expecting to see a lot of media exposure this summertime, not because they've been doing such a fantastic job, but because they've been doing such a lousy job of covering things. And Saturn is running through Indonesia, New Guinea and Australia. And yeah, so that part of the world looks a little bit hurt by weather. And the last point we're going to look at is New Zealand. Although New Zealand is a relatively peaceful place politically lately, it's gotten a little bit hotter and a little bit more contentious. So it's something that's most people should be aware of it. So if I'm looking at trouble spots, there's one right over Istanbul. There's one right over Italy, between Italy and Greece. There's one right over the Western United States and Western South America, and a couple over Saudi Arabia and India, China, and South, and what we used to call Indochina, which is this region. That's the area where Vietnam, Cambodia, Burma, or used to be called Burma, Myanmar, are, and also in Japan. So there's not one spot on the world that seems unaffected, totally unaffected by difficulty. The only spot I can look at is over here, this Jupiter line running through Africa is hopeful. But again, I think you're going to see a lot of angry people around the world. This isn't just going to be the case in the United States. It would be comforting to many people if they heard the United States were going through problems, but right now the entire world is going through a kind of a problematic 2 months. So I don't think anything disastrous is going to happen, but with Mars transits, they happen quickly. So you'll see, let's say, a flood or something like that happening very, very quickly, almost instantaneously. And that's where I'm a little bit concerned about these Mars and Moon lines around the world. Flooding, uh, bad rainstorms, ski disasters. Jupiter's in Aquarius. It's inside of Vishak Nakshatra. That's kind of a cliche placement for airline disasters. So be on the watch out for those over the next couple of months. And that's about it for looking at the world chart. I'm normally a very optimistic guy. This summer, just because that Mars-Saturn opposition looks rougher than usual. And Mars is also aspecting Jupiter, so that makes it a little bit tough. And one of the reasons I'm focusing on panics in certain areas is because many times a panic comes from an illogical response to an emergency. And if that's what's happening, then we can stop that. We can say, okay, let's be calm and rational about this. Let's not get too excited about it. And let's figure out what we can do. So I'm going to go to the charts for individuals or for groups of signs, and we'll examine that. Okay, so let me close this down. All right, so let's look at Aries. Oops. Okay, didn't mean to do that. Yeah, close out the program. Let's get that program up really fast. Okay, this won't take long at all, folks. I'm going to do it in real time. So this is the program. And let's just do a now chart. So this is what happens when you move too quickly, like Mars does. Okay. All right. So this is, let's share the chart. Excuse me. Oh, no, sorry. Yeah, share the screen. Okay, totally wouldn't take that long, probably longer than you wanted, but okay, so all right. So in the time since we've been talking, so that's why my pessimistic view returned. In the time since we started talking, Saturn moved into the first house. Yeah, you see that? So essentially that'll make my forecast more pessimistic than they need to be. But I was still stick by the forecast. It's going to be kind of a rough month throughout June, especially because of the retrogrades, but also because of the Mars-Saturn opposition. That's just it's a really difficult transit because Mars and Saturn are the two greatest malefics in Indian astrology. They're really tough. And K2 is in Mars sign right now, so it's going to be kind of a bumpy ride this summertime. As Mercury goes direct, you'll see clearer communication, so I think, and less panic. So you've seen sort of things like cryptocurrencies like going like, just all over the place. That's the Mercury retrograde with Rahu. So if we're looking at Aries, Aries has a great career month. So people with Sun in Aries, that's, again, this starts around the middle of the month. So this will be April 15th to May 15th. A lot of accumulation of money or attempts to accumulate money, a lot of charm, but a very angry home life for Aries this month, unfortunately. And also very harsh relationship partners. But luck is generally good. If they can stay the course, if they can stay centered and grounded and essentially able to resist the urge to blow up because their first house lord is in the fourth house. They'll be in great shape. Rahu and Mercury are in the first house for Taurus. That's May 15th to June 15th. Sun and Venus are in the second house. So this sign should have a great opportunity to make money this month. Mars and Moon are in the third house. A lot of ambition, a lot of drive for this sign. So this will be helpful to it, but not a lot of good luck in relationships. They'll meet angry or difficult people in relationship life. And with K2 in the seventh house, they probably shouldn't get involved in a heavy relationship right now anyway. Not until March of next year. The fourth house is okay. It gives good financial strength. And the fifth house indicates that children will be a little bit difficult to deal with, as will luck and entertainment. The positive thing about this placement is that luck is generally good. Saturn's in the ninth house as the ninth and 10th house lord. And career life looks extraordinarily good with Jupiter in the 10th house. So that looks great. So the sun will get a lot of opportunities over the next month. For Cancer is has Moon and Mars in the first house. Now, contrary to what I said before, this is actually considered to be a good combination. Mars and Cancer, if Cancer is the rising sign, is actually quite lucky because Mars rules the 10th house and the 5th house, which are two good houses in Indian astrology. And Mars and Moon as ruler of the 5th and the 10th house will give great career opportunities and success for this sign, but they'll also be overly emotional and overly bossy and at least in my estimation, overly strict because of the Saturn aspect on Mars, overly perfectionistic. The home life of this chart, of this sign, looks to be expensive. These people will be spending a lot of money to please their relationship partners. And K2's in the 5th. Communications with kids will be bad, or kids will be misbehaving. That shows up for this sign too. Oh, I missed Gemini. I'm going to go into that in a second. Did I do Gemini? No, I didn't do Gemini. I'll go back to Gemini in a second. For relationship life will seem to be like a prison for Cancers, unfortunately. Or else they'll just be stymied in their efforts to get together with somebody relationship-wise. This is going to be for about a good few months. You'll start to see some loosening of it, though, in the fall, when Jupiter moves back into the sign for a short stay. And in terms of legacies or financial windfalls, they'll actually do okay. They'll actually get unexpected cash. And career life they're going to be heavily focused on career this month and the next 2 months. But they should watch out for their friends because their friends won't be acting with their best interest at heart. Let's go back to Gemini, which I missed. So we have Sun and Venus in the first house. This makes this sign really incredibly confident, very attractive, very sure of themselves, but they will be a little bit short-tempered. It'll be tough for them to control their emotions. And with the fourth house lord in the 12th house, they'll either have to spend more time away from home or be drawn to spiritual life as a possibility. But it isn't good for stability, at least for the next few weeks. The 5th house indicates child will be very strongly on the person's mind, or love affairs will be very strongly on the person's mind this month. And the sixth house has K2 in it. The K2 is in Scorpio. So again, this sign has particular challenges with keeping its temper, not as a general rule, but just in terms of the chart this month. Relationship life looks promising because Jupiter, Lord of the seventh, is in the ninth house, but it'll tend to be an older or a more seasoned person they'll be attracted to. Saturn's in the eighth house, so it'll give very limited resources from relationship partners or romantic interests. The ninth and the 10th houses, the ninth and the 10th houses look very good. So that's the house of luck and the house of career. So those look extremely good for this sign. And if we go on to, but a lot of expenses this month. This sign will still be a little bit uncertain about itself. Leo has some health issues it has to contend with. He'll get some fame though this month, and family life will be a little bit disrupted, but relationship opportunities will abound this month. They'll be very, very strong this month, over the next week, excuse me. And career life, a lot of dissatisfaction with career life, but some success, some financial gains, and some recognition. At least career recognition is promised for Leos. This is August 15th to September 15th. For Virgos, not a bad time for them, although Jupiter's going to have to work for every inch of every effort in their life because of Jupiter being in the sixth house and Saturn being in the fifth. So their luck will probably continue to be a little bit difficult. Relationship life will continue to be just a little bit difficult because Saturn's aspecting the seventh. Rahu and Mercury are in the ninth. They'll have surprisingly good luck this month. And career-wise, they'll actually do very well. Friendship-wise, though, not quite so well. So people they thought it were their friends will turn out not to be quite so much, or also turn out to be rather angry towards them. For Libra has no planets in the seventh house. The seventh lord is in the 10th house. So a lot of focus and anger about career. K2's in the second house. This sign will be prone to disruptive temper. Saturn's in the fourth, a lot of responsibility connected with home life. And Jupiter's in the fifth, though, very creative time for them, very fruitful time for them creatively. And maybe some potential for pregnancy if they're inclined in that direction. Eighth house has Rahu and Mercury in it, so there'll be a lot of what I would call occult investigation, and by that I don't mean conjuring evil spells or things like that. I mean just research into why things are the way they are. And career luck looks actually pretty good. Career looks pretty good, although it'll be changing a little bit over the next month or so. For Scorpio, you have K2 in the first, Rahu in the seventh, along with Mercury. So this will give kind of deceitful relationship partners or some trouble trusting relationship partners. Saturn in the third and Jupiter in the fourth give a lot of courage and a lot of ambition to the sign and a lot of support from home. Sun and Venus are in the eighth house. Unexpected financial gains because of a relationship partner. Mars in the ninth house. A feeling of having difficulty with luck, although the moon is well placed in that sign. Sagittarius has, again, some financial limitations, but a lot of ambition and a lot of personal pizzazz, to use an outdated term. They'll seem very active and very sparky. And Rahu and Mercury, they should watch out for stomach ulcers or stomach problems. Sun and Venus in the seventh house, good for relationships. Mars and Moon in the eighth house, relationship partners may be mean though. And K2's in the 12th, very good for spiritual life. For Capricorn, Capricorn has a lot of self-control, but a lot of pressure put on it this month. But with Jupiter in the second house and Mercury in the fifth, you should do well financially. Sun and Venus are in the sixth house. People should watch out for problems with health, including diabetic issues. Mars is in the seventh house. A lot of fighting with relationship partners, unfortunately. And Ketu in the 11th house. Don't trust your friends. Don't trust your friends. Don't trust your friends. The last, that was a little bit extreme. Let's put it this way. Keep your friends at arm's length. It may sound cruel, but it's just this, over the past year or so, the signs have problems with friendships, and so it'll continue for about another year. I'm just being honest with you. So just keep them close, but don't rely on them too much. Jupiter's in the first house in Aquarius. It's a very good placement. It'll give financial gains to the sign. A lot of good opportunities. Rahu and Mercury in the fourth house. Home life will seem disruptive and difficult. Sun and Venus in the fifth are very good. It's a good combination for financial growth. But Mars and Moon, there could be health problems connected with blood and energy levels. And finally, in terms of career, again, good career activity. The person's respected in their career, but they're not often mentioned. They're viewed as being a little bit of an outcast. Usually doesn't bother Aquarius all that much. I'm just giving you that heads up. Finally, Pisces Pisces is, should I turn that off? Pisces Lord is in the 12th house in Aquarius, so there'll be a lot of interest in spirituality, or also a lot of getting drunk. And Rahu and Mercury are in the third house, so there'll be a lot of problems with communications. Home life actually looks fairly good from the sun, although there will be some opposition from relationship partner around spending issues and time spent away from home. And Mars and Moon are in the fifth house. That indicates some good things coming out of children, but I think the main thing to watch out for is there'll probably be discipline issues, which seems to be a repeating theme this month. And when I say discipline issues, it's not about making the kids compliant. It's just about getting them to do what they need to do. And seventh house, Florida, Mercury is in the third house, so relationship partners will seem very difficult to please. Going back over a lot of absent or forgotten issues. Ketu's in the ninth. This is kind of an unusual placement because Ketu in the ninth can be really, really good, especially if a person's involved in spiritual activities. It can even be good for some success in speculation because Ketu has a way of seeing the future. So let's say you're interested in investing, you might want to check it out, but just be cautious. And Saturn's in the 11th house. So again, watch out for friends, but this is more trustworthy than the Capricorn 11th house is. So you'll associate with people who are a little bit poorer than you or a little bit lower in status than you are. All right. So this overall, it's not a horrible month. It's not a great month, but it's not a horrible month. So I'm going to leave you with those words, and I wish you all the best. And don't worry, we'll get through this. We'll be gone through everything else. Namaste. This is not a tragedy month. It's just bumpy. See you soon.